What's going on YouTube? It's Lieutenant Cade, also known as Alvin the Director. I'm a lieutenant stationed down at Fort Gordon, Georgia, currently in Captain's Career Course. And in today's video, I want to talk about why soldiers end up transitioning out of the Army. Now, this video is not intended to be a recruiting tool. It's not intended to convince you to stay in the Army. It's just to give you an overview and a little bit of insight as to why soldiers end up transitioning out of the Army or in the military in general. Now, during my time in the Army, I've been stationed at Fort Wainwright, Alaska. For the most part, it's pretty far away from home for a lot of soldiers. So I've seen a lot of soldiers end up coming in the Army, doing one term, and then getting out. However, that's pretty common for a lot of duty stations in the Army, not just Fort Wainwright, Alaska. I kind of want to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Now, the first reason as to why soldiers might end up getting out of the Army is family. A lot of times you're far away from home. For me, I was 3,500 miles away from home. So if I'm 18, 19 years old and I spend 2 or 3 years away from home for the first time, I might get homesick. I might be wanting to get a little bit closer to home. I might not want to go to another duty station that may or may not be close to my home. Sometimes you get lucky and you're able to live close to your family. Sometimes a lot of soldiers end up liking staying away from family. A lot of soldiers also have spouses, they have kids, so you have to take that in consideration as well. So although you might not mind being away from family, you also have to take in that family consideration and say, hey, what does my spouse want to do? Does my spouse like being next to her family? Or do my kids like being around their grandparents? So that's definitely something that a lot of soldiers end up taking into consideration, is that family aspect. It's extremely important. You don't want to be that soldier that's so focused on their job, so focused on their career, that they neglect their family. So a lot of soldiers end up putting their family first, which is okay. It's something that you should do, is to always put your family in the forefront of all your business decisions, and the Army is a business decision. So that's a huge reason as to why soldiers end up transitioning out of the Army. The next reason a lot of soldiers end up getting out of the Army is because of money. Now, when it comes to money, soldiers get paid based on different things. You have your enlisted, you have your warrants, and you also have your officers. They all get paid completely different. You also get paid based on your rank. You get paid based on your time of service. You get paid based on your duty location. You might get COLA, different housing allowances. There are a lot of considerations that come into how a soldier gets paid. A lot of times they end up transitioning out of the Army because they're going to get paid more in the civilian world. I've seen a lot of soldiers who are making, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in the Army, and then they're able to get out after they get certifications and they're making six figures. They can make $130,000 on the outside world just based on their certifications that they get while they're inside the military. So a lot of soldiers end up going into the Army, getting those certifications, then taking those skills outside of the Army to make more money. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of soldiers end up getting out, is because they want to make more money on the outside world. The third reason a lot of soldiers end up getting out of the Army is because they use the Army as a springboard, and that's okay. That's what the Army is supposed to be used for. The Army is supposed to instill discipline. It's supposed to teach you different things. That way, you learn those things within the Army. That way, when you go back out into the civilian world, you have a leg up. You've been taught a lot of different skills that you can actually use to help yourself out in the long run. You might be wanting to go back to school. You might be wanting to be an entrepreneur. I had a soldier who was a great soldier, outstanding, amazing at his job, but he was an entrepreneur. So he used a lot of skills that he learned within the Army when he came in at 18. He got out the Army at 23 years old, and now he has his own successful business. He's loving what he does, and there's a lot of skills that he learned within the Army that helped him become a better entrepreneur on the outside world. So there's nothing wrong with joining the Army early on, whether you're 18, 19 years old, or if you're 25, 30, some 35 years old, using the Army as a springboard to get out, to learn some new skills, to get out into the civilian world and just be a better you. The fourth reason that I want to talk about as to why soldiers end up getting out of the Army is because of leadership. Now, with this leadership, I want to talk about it into two categories. I want to talk about good leadership, and I want to talk about bad leadership. The first thing I want to talk about is good leadership. Now, good leaders are able to teach their soldiers things. There's a lot of people that come into the Army, they might not have a driver's license, or they might not know how to buy a house. There's a lot that they don't know, but good leaders are teaching them different skills. They're teaching them how to be the best version of themselves that they can be. Those are examples of good leadership. Good leaders are talking to the families. They're giving predictability to those soldiers. They're giving predictability to those families. They're talking to them. And a lot of those soldiers, they see those good leaders and they want to transition out of the Army because they were taught such valuable skills, such valuable lessons, that they want to take that good leadership into the civilian world to, again, be the best version that they can of themselves. Now you also have bad leaders, and this is what we see most common when it comes to leadership. When you talk about leadership in the Army and why soldiers get out, a lot of times you hear about the bad leaders that soldiers have. Now it's not the case throughout the Army. Every leader is not a bad leader. I don't believe that the Army is toxic as a whole at all. However, a lot of soldiers end up encountering bad leadership, and that's another reason as to why soldiers end up transitioning out of the Army. They feel like their leaders micromanage, they might be toxic, they might not provide that predictability, they might just waste their time. I'm not big on wasting soldiers' times. Either you're gonna have the soldier doing something or you're not. Like if a soldier has an appointment, I'm gonna let that soldier go to that appointment. If that soldier is sick or if that soldier's kid is sick, it's up to that leader to let that soldier take care of their family. So those are different things that a lot of soldiers end up going through. Unfortunately, they end up having those bad leaders, and that's one of the driving forces as to why soldiers end up transitioning out of the Army. So between like family and having bad leadership, you're gonna go home if you have bad leadership, and your family's gonna see that. Whether you're single or whether you have a spouse at home or kids at home, your family is gonna see you when you get home, or you're gonna call your parents when you get home, and you're gonna talk about your work day. And if they find out, if they see that your work environment is toxic and it's not healthy for you, they're gonna encourage you to get out the Army, and that's what a lot of soldiers end up doing. They end up getting out the Army because of bad leaders. But again, bad leadership is not the only reason as to why soldiers end up getting out of the Army, because there are a lot of great leaders that teach their soldiers, again, valuable lessons. They teach them a lot of good skills, and those soldiers are using the Army as a springboard to get out. So when it comes to the Army, ultimately, I feel like it is a great tool. It's a great way for you to come in, get a lot of experiences, be able to travel, be able to use a lot of the benefits from the Army and transition those into the civilian world. Am I going to do 20 years? I have no idea at this point, but I am grateful for my time in the Army, and I hope this video was able to give you a little bit of insight as to why soldiers end up transitioning out of the Army. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, and also let me know what kind of videos you want to see in the near future. I'm looking forward to the next series of videos, and again, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I'm Alvin the Director, and I'm out.